Who was the dumbest person you ever met? How did you know? Dang it. Late to the party. Anyway, I was a cook a few years ago and this particular busy night we ran out of lobster mac and cheese. This one waitress could not understand how this was possible and just kept nagging and nagging in disbelief. I got annoyed to the point that I told her the reason for this was that there was a shortage of people with small enough hands to milk lobster's tiny knee less. Hence a worldwide shortage of lobster milk to make that dish. I had to come clean with her when she started telling this to customers and they demanded to speak with a manager. That's pretty f***ing funny. How pissed was your manager? She was pretty pissed at me. Somehow. My friend wanted me to try whole wheat pasta. I explained that I'm allergic to wheat. She said to try it because it's not wheat. It's whole wheat. Just say that you are whole allergic to whole wheat. My former boss was worried that the island of Manhattan would sink with all the extra visitors for New Year's and the ball dropping. She thought islands float, and when she found out that wasn't true she thought it was so funny that she told everyone the story. Well, technically NYC does sink. About 4 millimeters every year. It runs pumps because it was built on wetlands or swamp or something. I dunno. I remember a guy the first knew in middle school who put money into a vending machine and then his item didn't come out. Then he put more money into the machine and 2 of the item he wanted came out. He then exclaimed, "All right. 2 for 1. Man. I remember a guy in middle school who would put money in the vending machine and then sell the item for less money because he thought that's what making a profit was." One time my now ex-girlfriend was watching Maury Povich. One of those paternity test episodes with the classic, "You are not the father" moment. And she turns to me and says, "If we ever have a baby and I found out I'm not the mother, I'll kill you." Thankfully we didn't end up reproducing. You just randomly bring home a baby. Congratulations, dear. We've had a child. I was working retail at the time. And this lady walks in and asks me to tell her when it is 10:15 a.m. She needs to catch a bus. We were slow so I obliged. 10:15 a.m. rolls around and I tell her, so she drops her stuff and runs out to get the bus. 5 minutes later she comes back scowling. And she then lectures me on how to tell time. How much is a quarter? 25 cents. So why would you tell me a quarter after 10 a is 10:15 a.m.? It's 10:25 a.m. Tell her that her bus is late today. It will be in at $3 to 11. I was taught 11th grade science by a teacher who believed tattoos were genetically inherited. I asked a temp at work to weigh a couple of lever arch files for postage. She came back and told me they were 65 kilograms. I asked if it were possible that it was 6.5 kilograms, but she insisted it wasn't. We argued about it for a good 5 minutes. It wasn't until I asked her how much she weighed, 59 kilograms, that it finally twigged that these 2 small folders couldn't possibly weigh more than her. Had a girl I worked with at McDonald's. Sweet as could be but denser than the concrete the store sat on. 2 moments stand out to me. 1. She thought the Great Wall of China was in Arizona. 2. She firmly believed north was whatever direction you were looking at the moment. I had a boss who told me that she never kept leftovers from a meal because that's how polio got started. All that pre-cooked food in the supermarket, it's all polio. A girl in my class in middle school genuinely thought people had landed on the sun. Her explanation for this belief was to insist that the moon and sun are made of the same stuff. Well, yeah. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. You can build a lot of wacky s with that. Though. Protons, neutrons, electrons, and morons apparently. A friend of mine is a sweet guy but is overweight and balding and quite frankly, not very attractive in the face. Well, one day he lets us know that he has met a girl and she might be the one. He's in his late 20s for reference. Well, I've met some of the jewels he's hooked up with in the past, so I wasn't expecting too much. Finally meet this girl and she is drop dead gorgeous and has a body that is incredible. I talked to her for a while and she is super friendly and outgoing. I'm stoked for my boy. He found the best he's ever gonna find. Anyway, the night progresses and the new couple starts talking about their plans for an upcoming trip to New Mexico, and she starts telling us how excited she is because she has never gone to another country before. I laughed a bit and realized she was dead serious. My friend just looked at me and shook his head and I knew That he knew. She was dumb as AF King Rock, but she was his dumb F King Rock. For what it's worth, he helped her get her passport. Did they stay together? I need to know. Yes. Married now and breeding. I worked with a woman who would be constantly on her phone. But if she set it down, she'd think it would be someone else's. She legitimately spent 20 minutes looking for her phone, believing that the phone in front of her was another coworker's. Then finally did it dawn on her that it was hers. Don't know how she survived 50+ years. A girl in my art class in high school thought there was just a part of the cow called meat. When we explained meat as the muscles, she freaked out and became vegetarian. A girl in my sophomore year of high school who thought there were 6 months in a year. She was really nice, but very surprised and confused when we tried to set her right. Edit, for those asking which months she would have included in her version of a year. I don't think she thought that far ahead. White girl didn't think she could get pregnant because the guy was Mexican. Swear on my life. What? Why? What did she think that Mexicans had that would not get her pregnant? My assumption is she thought you could only reproduce with someone of your own race. Maybe she's stupid enough to become a new species altogether. I'm late, but car dashboard reads 40 miles to E. My car says in 40 miles. We'll be going east. Single quote. Oh God. Jesus. Please take the wheel. Half of my science class thought that the International Space Station was just some building on the ground. Ah yes, the International Land Station. I know a guy who vaped mercury on a dare. Out of everything in this thread, this one's the most f-ked up. They thought dinosaurs were fictional. I knew a grown woman who thought that dinosaurs never existed. Are a hoax that is being perpetuated through time by scientists trying to be in on the joke. Her main argument for this point: if dinosaur bones are real, tell me why it's only ever a paleontologist that keeps finding the bones. Not a whole lot of part-time retail employees finding dinosaur bones in their spare time. Well, that proves it. Girl in my class asked the professor if other countries have moons. 2. My best friend asked me this when I moved to Europe. She asked if I could see the moon there, or if it only existed for the USA. When I moved from Europe to the US, I was asked, do you guys have television? This was in 2005. Edit, the rest of the conversation went, no. The castles don't have electricity to plug a TV into. I thought she was kidding, so I was joking back. She replied, oh, yeah, that makes sense. My first ever girlfriend thought you had to study for an STD test. She was really pretty. A guy at a job site said this to me in all seriousness. I am quoting, if Hitler had put all the Jews on the Titanic, he could have saved himself a lot of trouble. He felt like I had a stroke. A girl at my high school didn't know you could get pregnant from CM. So, she learned that when she got pregnant? Please tell me she didn't. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. I had a guy at work tell me that Benjamin Franklin was the 100th president because he's on the $100 bill. A friend of mine still thinks cancer is made up by Big Pharma. Ooh, I've seen this one in the wild so many times. And as someone who grew up seeing that slowly waste away a parent, it really gets under my skin. I live in southern Spain. I once met a girl from the U.S. who was here on some kind of exchange program. When I asked her how did she like Spain so far, she said, I am loving it. I just don't know why the plane took so long to get here. I mean, we are just a bit below Mexico. I don't know why the flight was so long. Then I told her that we were in Europe. And she didn't believe me. Her reply was, Europe? It can't be. Everyone speaks Spanish, so we must be somewhere near Mexico for sure. She was in uni. I still don't know how or why. I'm Spanish too. The amount of times I've experienced this is stupid. At least 3 people I've met thought Spain was in Mexico. My ex-sister-in-law is hands down the dumbest person I've ever encountered. There's literally a plethora of f-king insanely stupid things she's said over the years. But I'll use the one that almost made me slap the taste out of her mouth. I had my first son back in 2001, and while I was pregnant she asked me if I was going to be ST-feed. To which I replied that I was. She then asked even if it's a girl, and I said of course. She then proceeded to tell me that it's perfectly fine to BST feed boys, but doing so with girls is creepy and could make the child a lesbian. Because they get the feel of a breast and will remember it and want that say ooly. To say that I was stunned by her thought process is an understatement. I asked her what she thought people did before formula was invented and she said, cow's milk. And before bottles were invented it was a rag soaked in cow's milk. Side note, she had 3 daughters and wouldn't allow her husband to change their diapers or bathe them. While visiting the Lincoln Memorial, I ran into an older couple discussing the inscription of the Gettysburg Address on the walls. The woman asked the man what this was in reference to and if it was about America, and the man said something to the effect of, "No, this couldn't be about America. We never had any slaves here in our country. It must be about what happened in country X. These were 2 Americans." Oh God. I went to school with a girl that legitimately thought 9/11 was done by German Nazis.